Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're walking in Memphis. Topic of this Walking in Memphis, USWA from October 16th, 1993. And if you want to check out the video I review, it's going to be down here in the description. If you haven't seen any of my videos previously, I grade everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. For Walking in Memphis, we consider it segment to segment, basically commercial break to commercial break. Unless there's a match that goes multiple segments, then that match will be considered all as one. With all that being said, let's jump right in. We start off with our first match of the show, Jeff Gaylord versus Brian Christopher. Brian Christopher has Tony Adams as his manager. This was a fun match to start the show off with. I enjoy Brian Christopher's work, especially in Memphis. He's criminally underrated on how good he actually was. Jeff Gaylord's one of those kind of wrong place at the wrong time kind of guys. He fit the look, he fit the gimmick of what would be popular in the era. But there were a half dozen wrestlers that looked just like him, that wrestled like him, so he didn't really stand out that much. I thought he was a good wrestler, personally. This was a pretty decent match. It seems that Christopher picks up the win by hitting Jeff Gaylord with a chain while Tony Adams has the referee distracted. Afterwards, we have Mike Anthony comes out from the back. Mike Anthony says that Christopher used the chain. Christopher hands the chain off to Tony Adams, who puts it in her shoe. The referee checks Christopher, no chain. The fans are telling the referee, check her shoe, check her shoe. The referee does just that, finds the chain. Brian Christopher gets disqualified, allowing Jeff Gaylord to win here. Like I said, I thought this was really fun. I enjoy this match. I thought it was a good match, a good way to start the show. You get the crowd, the studio audience involved. You get one of your better heels of the time, and a pretty decent babyface going out there with the fans getting to back the babyface and help the referee determine the winner, basically giving him the information that he needs to change the match. Like I said, I thought this was really good. From that, we go right into a promo with Eddie Marlin, who's talking about Macho Man Randy Savage, who had just recently won their world championship. And the interesting thing about this was right during the McMahon invasion angle, where WWE wrestlers were wrestling there, and even Vince McMahon would appear as a heel at the time, and all of the WWE talent, whether they were face or heel on WWE, were heels in Memphis. They show a pretty funny poster that they said that Macho Man sent them, and it basically says, instead of King of the Ring, it says King of the Hicks. I thought that was pretty good. For this entire segment, I'm going to give this a 4. I thought it was a good way to start the show. You're talking about one of the big stars in wrestling. You're showing off one of your big stars in Brian Christopher. Thought it was a really good opener. Next up, we get TD Steele versus Doomsday. Doomsday is managed by Paul Neighbors, and if you're not familiar, Doomsday would go on to be Kane, aka Mayor Glenn Jacobs. This was your typical giant wrestler squashing an enhancement talent. TD Steele was a really good wrestler, a good hand, a good way to get these guys over, like Doomsday, or some of the many other wrestlers that came through Memphis that were giants or monsters that Jerry Lawler wanted to push in a way and make them bigger stars. TD Steele was always there for that. Doomsday picks up the win on this one. That leads us right into an interview with Richard Lee, who has Moondog Spike and Mike Anthony out there with him. Mike Anthony and Moondog Spike had recently won the tag team championships. Anthony was substituting for a Moondog that got injured. They introduced Moondog Splat, which is a giant Moondog. I don't really remember much about Splat, who he was. Moondog Spike was one that was a Moondog for a lot of years. There was several different wrestlers that wrestled under the Moondog gimmick. I don't remember what wrestler actually was Splat, but he was a massive man. Things go poorly, as Anthony says he should be still part of the tag champions. The Moondogs attack him. He gets the save by Jeff Gaylord coming out. Obviously, they're wrestling in similar gear, so they're going to go forward as being a team. For that segment, I'm giving that a 4 as well. I thought that was pretty good. Next up, we have the team of the American Eagles going up against Scorpio and Sergeant O'Reilly. The American Eagles are also known as the Nightmares, Buddy Wayne and Danny Davis. This was a decent match. PG-13 comes out towards the end and gets themselves disqualified. They're in a feud feud with the American Eagles at the time, which we'll see a little bit of that a little bit later on the show as well. Pretty decent match though up until that point. There's really a non-finish because of the PG-13 involvement. Going from that, we go right into an interview with Mike Anthony and Jeff Gaylord, which brings out Eddie Marlin. Eddie Marlin says, you guys want a tag title shot? You got it. You guys can face the Moondogs. For all that, I'm giving that segment a 3. I thought it was pretty good. I think it set up more what was about to come up than what just happened here. After that, we get a promo with PG-13 and a little person wrestler. And I don't know if I could say this because I do believe it's considered a slur at this point. I'm going to call him Mini D. They used a different M word for a little person or a small person. I don't know what the proper terminology is here, and I don't want to offend anybody. I'm going to call him Mini D. That's not the name they used. That leads us right into a match with PG-13 versus Del Rios and Ken. I hate to say this guy's name too. The most unfortunate named wrestler in the history of wrestling, Ken Raper. And if I do mention him again on this show, he's going to be just Ken R. This match, the PG-13 gets disqualified when Mini D gets involved. That brings out the American Eagles and Little Eagle, who's another little wrestler. I thought this was pretty good. Again, I think the segment before this set this segment up. For that, I'm going to give this a 4. I thought it was pretty good. Next up, we get an interview with Richard Lee and the Moondogs again. This, again, another good segment. Richard Lee's a pretty good talker. I love the Moondogs. I have a soft spot for all versions of the group. So anytime that they're on TV, I'm going to think of it highly. That brings us right into our main event of the show. Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler going up against Charlie Land and Reggie B. Fine in a 2 out of 3 falls match. This was a really good match. I enjoyed this. Because the story being told, Reggie B. Fine questioned his partner going into the match, and during the match he left his partner by himself several times, went over the commentary table several times. I've gone on record saying I enjoy Reggie B. Fine. I think he was an immensely talented orator. This was really good. Jarrett and Lawler pick up 2 wins in a row because of Reggie's antics. I thought this was a great way to go off of the air. Again, showing off 2 of your biggest stars that you have in Lawler and Jarrett. Reggie B. Fine, one of the big heels that they had during this time frame. For that last segment, I'm going to give that a 5. Overall, I thought this was a really enjoyable show. Pretty much no real down point in the show. Everything was either good or really good, with the final segment, I think, being great. I thought this was a really fun show. I'm going to give the show a 4 overall. I definitely recommend checking it out. That being said, let's smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. And if you made it all the way to the end, throw Moondogs in the comments for me, because I love the Moondogs. Hopefully you do too. Once again, my name is George Coles, and we've been walking in Memphis.